7 ways to be a better rhythm guitar player. And today I have my good friend and pal, Chuck Berry. Travis Feaster playing guitar because
I'm much nicer to women. I went there with it. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Not touching that one. Okay, 7 ways to be a better rhythm guitar player.
Okay, so number 1, know the song.
Right.
And it sounds so simple, but I've done gigs with people, and most of this, what we're going to talk about, I think, is more gig situations, more like playing with other people's, not sitting on your bed learning how to become a better player, right?
Right.
Okay.
Applies more to you're trying to get into a band or play with a group of people. In some way.
Play
whether
amongst
it's a
others.
Church or
right. Yeah, not just
busking
like
on the street.
Right, because if you're at home, no one cares if you don't know the song exactly right.
Right.
And I'm not saying you can't put your little spin on things, but number 1, know the song. If it has a riff, play the riff. If it has chords, but also know both parts.
Right.
So that way you can kind of pick your spot, which I guess is kind of the second way is pick your spot.
Right.
So if somebody is playing the riff, you need to be able to play the rhythm, or kind of like what we were saying, before this is if you're playing with a guitar player or a piano player and they're playing something in a lower voicing, you want to be able to play that higher voicing to kind of get out of
fill
the way.
The space.
So like an example, let's just make it just a G to A minor kind of amp.
Okay.
So let's say it's easier to sing playing these chords. Or whatever.
Right.
So if the guy singing's playing that, you need to be able to say, well, it's G to A minor, I need to play that somewhere else.
Right.
So maybe it's here. Or wherever. You know what I mean? It can be anywhere.
Right.
So basically, pick your spot and stay out of their way a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that kind of goes back to knowing the song a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So I'd say that's kind of the number 2 thing.
The 1 and 2.
Yeah, the 1 and 2 kind of
know the song, and then once you know the song, know other places to play those chords.
Exactly.
Right.
Which kind of leads us into like a third thing, which is, stay out of the bass player's way.
Right.
And that 2 things. Number 1, sonically.
Mm-hmm.
I used to play, not trying to make it about me, but I used to play 15-inch speakers or 212 cabinets and be super loud. And my bass player was over there with a 410. Next thing I know, I'm hitting, and it's so bassy that it's washing him out.
Right.
So then your music starts losing definition, and no one cares how good you are if it's muddy or murky or just doesn't sound
And there's
good.
a lot of I wouldn't say all, but most recorded music, they actually put a filter to take out a lot of that bottom end.
Absolutely.
To make space for
the bass guitar or the
bass
left hand of the piano,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Right.
But another thing kind of goes back to what I was just saying, picking your spots, stay out of the way of the bass player, is, if you got, a great example is that 3 Little Birds by Bob Marley. You know that song?
Yep.
It's pretty much a bass line. So why would you even play anything in that register? You don't. And on that record, I think the guitar isn't even playing chords. It's just kind of doing a...
Just a little bit of tone and rhythm.
Exactly. And that's a very drastic example.
Right.
But at the same time, if you go listen to that song and you listen to the groove, that's why. You're staying out of the way. You're playing bare minimum. You know what I mean? And you know the song. You're picking your spots.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Makes
You agree
perfect
with
sense. I do. And then you can not worry about a thing. Everything's going to be right. That was a terrible joke, I know.
No, it was the dad presence is strong with this one.
I got my dad boxers on today. All right, so we have, don't be afraid to venture out of the box.
Right.
But not too much.
Not too much, yeah. No chord solos. But a good example of this is, like Soul Man, by Sam and Dave, I think, did it, right?
Sure.
But, I'm a soul man. Let's see. But the main rhythm of that is... it's out of the box, or if you want to do something different. You know, it doesn't have to just be. There's ways to make it interesting, kind of going outside the box with like little stabs like that. That makes sense?
It makes perfect sense.
And there's like a lot of soul tunes. I love soul music for that reason. Mm-hmm. They'll play a chord and then like a little riff, you know. You know, mm-hmm. that's the rhythm guitar.
Right.
And it's like, everybody thinks rhythm, they think, well, strumming chords.
Right. Cowboy.
Yeah.
Banga, banga, banga.
How?
Banga, banga. That's the G.
That's
when
the
you get
G.
to C, it's singa, 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 singa. D is danga, danga, danga. Yeah.
That's that way everybody knows
that way
to play along.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
F sharp is a little more awkward.
Right. But, and just like with anything we always do, there's going to be players out there saying, yeah, duh, or whatever. But
right.
There's a lot of players who don't really, you know, rhythm guitar sounds boring because all it means is playing chords while your buddy plays solos forever.
Right.
Because when I started jamming, that's what I would do, is I would just play rhythm, and my buddy would just play guitar solos. So I was like, man, I got to learn how to make this way more fun. Listen to Curtis Mayfield, number one. But and another thing, sorry to touch on that, invert some chords. Like
so example.
Okay, so for instance, we all know C. Oh, and we all probably know this one, right? Really, what makes your C chord here is this. Yeah, plus a root. Well, I mean, your root's there.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So you got a 3,
right.
A 3, 1, and a 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 3 note in the bass and not play the root as the low note.
Right.
So you can play around with that while you're playing, like. Kind of, right? I mean, stripped down.
Get a little
example. Wait, that's who I stole it from. But he kind of got it from Curtis Mayfield. So if you go back and listen to a lot of that stuff, or old Isley Brothers stuff. So get out of the box a little bit, but don't go too crazy.
Right. Except on solos.
Oh, great point.
You know?
So let's say.
Because like if you got a guy playing a solo right there, now you got to be a little careful with your little fancy. Little rhythmic thing you're doing there.
Right. So
I don't know what.
But I always bring everything back to blues because I love blues music, but it's also very relatable, and almost everybody knows how to play some form of blues music.
Right.
So, for instance, if it's just a blues shuffle, and you've been outside the box of this, and you've playing. Or whatever, your variation. Right. Well, if there's a guitar solo going on and they're going to play those, that's going to completely interfere with everything you're doing, and you're kind of muddying up the guy's solo.
Right.
So if that's the case, a good rule of thumb, I guess, is go as low as you can without stepping on the bass.
Right.
But so if it's that, I would just do something like. So abandon the outside the box thing,
right?
And
go back to just the bass,
exactly.
Not bass note, but
right.
the core, the
right.
Home,
right. And the way I always kind of look at everything is, sorry to get weird, but a song is a canvas. It's a painting, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of times the rhythm is either the canvas itself or the frame for the whole painting. You know what I mean? So if that guy is painting with all these magnificent colors, you're going to try to keep out of his way, right?
Right.
So I don't know if that makes any sense, but I always just kind of go to the most basic rhythm I can, but stay in the groove. So, speaking of groove, that's the number one thing is listen. Listen to the groove of the drums, listen to how the bass is interacting with the kick drum. And I know it sounds like an awful lot to keep in mind while you're playing, but the number one thing is how it feels.
Right.
I always say bass and drums, steak and taters, we're the salt and pepper. You know what I mean? But it's like it's gonna get. See, it always goes to food.
It does,
right?
Yeah.
But no, I mean that's the thing is stay within the confines of the tune and just listen to the bass and the drums. I don't really know how else to say that other than practice that. And we were talking about you got to practice in time. We
Right.
get it, but just tick tock, it's
Right.
boring.
Right.
So we were saying practice with some drum loops.
Right.
There's all kinds of drum loops readily available on the internet, and YouTube.
Tons of stuff on YouTube. Yeah.
Or all styles of music.
Yep.
And the meter is going to be perfect because it was done digitally or something, and it's a
just
program loop.
Lose and loose with some sort. Yeah.
Right. And
generally, they're not going to be a drummer who's going to make his own YouTube.
Right.
But it happens.
Right.
But for the most part, yeah, you can just find drum. You can find actually like tracks without drums, tracks without guitar.
It's a
tracks.
it's a rabbit hole.
There's all kinds of things. Yeah. So but that kind of stuff I always thought was really handy to just practice. Like if you got bass, and you got drums. Well, that's really good for just practicing like your rhythmic stuff. That way, because like you said, with the metronome, it's just.
Yeah.
Like there's no rhythm there.
Right.
Try dancing to that.
Exactly. Exactly. So what I like to do is I like to pick a drum groove. I even have an app on my phone that's a metronome, and you can change the sounds and the dynamics. So I have it set to cymbal, snare, and kick drum, and then you can humanize the whatever. But I'll use that a lot, and that makes a huge difference because then you're actually listening to groove. You're listening to rhythm, meter, all of that, and then goes back to picking your spots, I guess, and finding your spot within that.
Right.
So that's kind of would be my tips.
Right, and I think those are some really good tips and things that I haven't heard on other listicle type rhythm guitar.
Well, I tried to make it to where listicle, but I try to make it more to where when you're in a room with other people actually jamming, that's when the magic happens, man. Yeah. And if you can do anything to get the shortcut to be to where that magical moment can happen,
right?
Then that.
And at the end of the day, it's always about making the people around you sound as good as they can.
Absolutely.
I mean, everybody wants to step, not everyone, but a lot of people want to step into the spotlight and rip off an Yngwie Malmsteen lick during their blues jam,
Hey,
but
teamwork makes a dream work.
But I think if you I think if a person just focuses, like they're just playing rhythm, or really not even rhythm, if you're just playing the rhythm part, if you're focusing on being tight with everyone else, making the song as good as it possibly can be, then you're going to sound good. If as long as you're in key or in tune, and key.
The two biggest compliments I can ever get walking off stage, number one is, man, your guitar tone sounded great. And then number two is, man, that band is tight.
Right.
Those two things, I don't care how I played, how I sang, or anything.
I think I arguably would be more fond of, you guys sounded so tight. Right.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That is the number one.
Because, I mean, it's possible you're playing on a pod, Line 6 pod from 2001, And not that those aren't great. Those are fantastic devices, but,
I know what you mean.
They're not whoa! They're not Boss Katanas.
Desktop katanas.
This video brought to you by Boss Katana. Not really, but...
Not really. Wampler pedals and such. Or just Wampler. My fault.
Yeah, just Wampler.
Just Wampler now.
Pedals too long. So, anyway, I don't know where that was coming from. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. Hit the little bell at the top if you want to get notifications. If you want to see more of Travis, make sure you hit him up on Facebook because he loves getting questions. Loves it.
It really doesn't bother me. It really doesn't.
Especially when they say stuff like, what kind of picks do you use?
It doesn't bother me because I finally have an answer. When we were doing the podcast, somebody was nice enough to send me a plethora of guitar picks.
Really?
And within that plethora, I found one that I use all the time now. Pick Boy. It's the one with the holes in it.
My favorite are the Dunlops. I think that's what you're using. They got the little nubbies on them. You got the little grippies on it. Yeah. So that way you can't, if you're playing, if you're jamming, you know how it happens. Like it just flips out of your finger.
Into Neverland.
And you'll never find it again.
Ever. It's gone.
But when you have those grippies.
You're right.
Yeah, you can't lose it. You have to try. So, anyways, hope you enjoy the video. See you next week with a new one. Later.